Hey, happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ascension Talk with Ariella. So I'm Ariella Indigo, and for those of you that don't know me, I am an Ascension guide, I'm a catalyst, and I'm really somebody who is here helping the multidimensional community. So these are the new paradigm leaders to really get up and running in society with their missions to ground their incredible gifts into the earth plane. And as some of you will know, I'm in this group on the first 3 Thursdays of each month at 4 p.m. London time, where I share all different types of topics relating to ascension, relating to multidimensionality, and really empowering this community with the tools and the teachings that you need to have the most incredible, most abundant, most happy ascension journey as you possibly can. I'm definitely an ambassador for we get to have an incredible physical life while we're here, as well as an incredible spiritual life. So topic today is a very important topic. It's a very deep topic. I'm going to do my best to share as much as I can about this and to give you some of my experience, some of the tools that I have learned along the way as well, which have really empowered me against this phenomenon of entities. So we are going down the rabbit hole of entities today. Do they exist, and how to deal with them if you have this in your reality? So first of all, the reason why I have felt very strongly to share on this topic with you today, because if I'm honest, it feels a little bit vulnerable, me talking to you about this topic, because it has been such a deep journey for me in this lifetime. And I'm going to be sharing, very honestly and very openly with you, some of the experiences that I've had and where I'm at on my journey of also having visitations and experiencing different entity attachments. So the reason I've been called to do this is because the energy that we are all going through, the planetary energy, is very, very intense at the moment. Yeah, so we've got all the eclipses. We are building up now to the Lion's Gate. We had the full moon, the new moon this month with the 2 eclipses. We had Mercury, we're still in Mercury retrograde. We're really building up to the Lion's Gate now. So some very intense planetary energies. And the sensitive ones, the multi-dimensional ones, we really feel this. You know that we really feel this in terms of ascension symptoms, but also because we are very much tuned into those other dimensions. We can also experience energy playing out in sometimes what can be quite frightening ways. Like when you're tapped into these other dimensions, we have a different experience sometimes of reality, right, as multidimensionals compared to, say, the humans do. So this is a very multidimensional share. And I myself have definitely been noticing that there has been a big increase in terms of the amount of visitations that I have been receiving in these past few weeks. And some of them have been, and I've got to the stage in my evolution now where, I feel empowered. I've got some really good tools. I understand the entity phenomenon, and it doesn't it doesn't scare me like it used to do. And I teach about all of this stuff today. I'm an incredible clearer of entities. I help people to release attachments as well. So I'm pretty much skilled up, but I will share that there has been some, one in particular occasion that was pretty frightening for me even recently. And not just me, but when I've been sharing this with my spiritual mentor, because, I also have somebody who is guiding the way for me. She has also shared that she has been experiencing some dark energy recently and having some, to our humans, some quite frightening, one in particular again. And interestingly, we both had it on the same night, one frightening experience. So what I want to say to you, first of all, is even when you are a teacher of this stuff, right, and even when you've gone on your long kind of rite of passage, there is still tests, there is still stuff that you will create, which is going to take you to the next level in your understanding. So, I think sometimes people think that spiritual teachers, like they've sorted out all of their stuff and like nothing ever comes up for them again. You know, that may be like a few people's experience, but I don't think it's most of our experiences. You know, for me, there is still like energy, there is still like stuff that comes up for me from time to time that I really need to look at, and it tests me, you know, and it has been one of those testing times recently. So a little bit about, so let's talk about entities. Well, one sort of quite funny situation that happened recently to me was at the end of last month, myself and Ethan, my partner, my twin flame, we both went away at the end of last month to this incredible, like beautiful nature spot in the UK. It's called the Lake District. If you know about that in the UK, it's absolutely stunning. So anyway, I came back from the Lake District, and that night I got woken up with a start because my energy body now is so sensitive, so that if anything is going on in my house, particularly in my bedroom, my energy will wake me up. And I got woken up by a start, and as I woke up, I saw these wings, right? This being with wings, like shooting out of my bedroom door. The energy didn't feel dark, and it was like, you know, I've got to the stage where this has happened so many times to me, all different types of beings, that it doesn't, you know, it doesn't scare me anymore because I know what to do about it. I can clear them, I can resolve it, I can go back to sleep. It's almost a bit like annoying, to be honest, sometimes, because I want to have a good night's sleep. The energy didn't feel dark, but it was just like, okay, what's that? And it was just like, I'll deal with it in the morning, quite honestly. Went back to sleep, got woken up a couple of moments later, and it looked like I found out that it's a troll, but I didn't know what it was. It was a male kind of, like, I didn't know if it was a gnome or an elf, and I saw that rushing across like my bedroom towards my wardrobe, and I knew that that shouldn't be there. So it was at that point I called in the guides. You know, I have and we all have a guide team, right? And because of the work that I do, I have a very specific group of guides that I work with who do clearings for people and also for me. So I called them in hilariously, and we are going to add humor to this topic because it could be a bit macabre. Otherwise, it could be a bit heavy. They're called the Men in Black. That's how they presented themselves to me. Yeah, they're called the Men in Black because I'm a starseed. My energy type is very multidimensional, and they clear multidimensional energy. So the Men in Black came in, they did a big clearing, and I went back to sleep. So that was actually like, and then next day when I spoke to my spiritual mentor, we both tuned in, we discovered that it was a troll who had jumped in the car. It was like a mischievous troll that had jumped in the car as I was leaving the Lake District and coming back home. And actually it had been sort of like poking my dog a little bit, sort of like just tormenting my dog a little bit, which made sense because my dog had been like he'd just been acting strangely the day before. The being with the wings was actually a lake diva. So where we were staying, it was by this beautiful private lake. It was this mountain lake. And this lake diva had got attached to me. And the reason that they get attached to us, because I think sometimes we think it's always like, oh, they're trying to attack us, or, you know, and I definitely thought that myself, like, what are you doing? You know, you're violating my boundaries. But she was very curious. You know, my energy type is that I'm hybrid energy. So I'm part alien, I'm part human, and I'm part elemental. And when beings from these other realms, in this case, the Lake Diva, obviously she's from the elemental realm, when they meet a human who is particularly an open, aware, sort of psychic human, if you like, they get quite curious. And they also see that you are, to them, it's like you're further on in the evolutionary journey than they are. Sometimes that's how they can see you. They kind of can glorify you a little bit. And this one had got quite curious, you know, and she had got attached, and she came home with me. And then, bless her, she was freaking out because there wasn't any water. I don't have any water, like where I live. And she wanted to go back home. So I helped her to go back home, basically, and the troll was helped on to go into the next realm. So that's the light-hearted version of the story. But my history, and some of you may relate to this, either you've had it yourself or maybe you know somebody who is perhaps a little bit similar to how I was when I was growing up. I have, and I understand it now, I have received many, many, many different visitations since I was a little girl. Many. And it used to scare the absolute hell out of me because, you know, it wasn't in my family's belief system. I just, you know, it was like my imagination was kind of making it up. It was the classic case of, you know, me having to sleep with the light on. I would be screaming at nighttime, thinking that there were ghosts in the bedroom. I would be checking the wardrobes and all of the you know, cupboards, looking under the bed before I'd get into bed at night. You know, really, really quite disturbed for many years. And it was very confusing because I do see the beings now, you know, particularly when I'm in those altered states between asleep and being awake. But when I was younger, I didn't used to see them in the same way, but I used to sense them and I used to feel them. And I would sort of tell my mum about it, but it was like, well, you know, bless her, you know, love her, and she's very spiritual today, but it just wasn't in my family's belief system. So they just thought, oh, she's been watching Freddy Krueger again or whatever, right, scaring herself. So it wasn't really taken very seriously. So many different visitations, which I didn't understand for years. And then as I got older and I would start seeing beings, and I would start hearing as well different voices and messages coming through. It was, you know, I thought there was something wrong with me, right? I thought that I was crazy. And it was very, very distressing for me. You know, when you don't come from a belief system of understanding that there are beings in other dimensions, you yourself have nowhere else to go than to think that, you know, you're going mad, right? It's your imagination. I remember when I was about 24, I must have been about 24, and I was living with a guy that I was dating at the time, my ex-boyfriend, and I had this very, very challenging stretch of my life whereby I understand now that I had like entities attached to me. And at this point, I wasn't, you know, I didn't know anything about protecting my energy, managing my energy. The way that I was living my life was pretty reckless. You know, I was drinking a lot, you know, there were drugs at that time, you know, I was going out and partying. It was quite a sort of hedonistic, reckless lifestyle, covering up a huge amount of anxiety, depression, feeling like I couldn't cope, and drinking was really a solution for me to feel better about how I did in my waking reality, because I would be having many, many anxiety attacks in my day and finding it very difficult to, you know, as a very sensitive person to cope. And I remember once at this time, I was woken up by this like huge, dark, very dark energy being on my bed. And like my boyfriend at the time, he woke me up, I'd been screaming. And as I woke up, I'd scratched like the whole of his back. I'd been fighting. He was like on top of me, trying to wake me up, basically. And as I was coming back in from the astral, I'd like scratched, I was fighting him, and I scratched the whole of his back, and he had like these huge marks on his back. And the only thing that I remember is just like a very quick glimpse of this very dark being. And then I was sort of back, you know, in this dimension, and was absolutely terrified. You know, we went downstairs and had a cup of tea, and I was like in tears, you know, what is wrong with me? And what I'll share with you is you know, very openly and honestly, you know, I thought for years that maybe I'd been sexually molested. Yeah, I really, And I explored that subject very much in counseling, in therapy, because I ticked all of the boxes, you know, all of those boxes for trauma, the night terrors, the screaming in the night, you know, the drinking like crazy, being completely out of control. I mean, I ticked all of those boxes, you know, and at one point a few years later, I was in therapy and I was like questioning the unquestionable, you know, looking at, you know, family members and people around me and thinking, is there something that my psyche has buried deep? Is that why I'm experiencing, you know, all of these problems? You know, I didn't have it still in my belief system back then that entities existed. You know, I didn't know that there were different energy types on the earth plane. You know, what I did know is that people around me weren't seeming to experience reality in the same way that I was. So again, it was like, you know, I thought it was me. I thought there was a problem with me. So around that time when I was 24 and I saw this huge being, it was a very, very scary time in my life, because I don't know if it was before this incident with this being or afterwards, but I started speaking in tongues, right? I started speaking in tongues in my sleep. And again, with this boyfriend, you can imagine he must have been absolutely terrified, this kind of deranged girl, you know, speaking in these different languages and having these episodes at night. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's pretty scary, right? When you get told that you've just been sat up in bed and for the past 2 minutes you've been speaking with your eyes open, completely fluidly in a language that doesn't come from the earth plane. You know, because that's how it was described to me. And other boyfriends, like 2 other boyfriends, said exactly the same things to me at other stages. So yeah, it was like, oh my God, what's going on here? And you know, I thought, well, I've been possessed. So and actually it was true. You know, like I wish I could say something else, but actually, you know, that's what was happening to me. I didn't have the tools, right? I didn't have the know-how of how to protect my energy. I didn't believe in these other realities. I was scared that that's what was going on, but I was too scared to actually believe it as a truth, because I didn't have the tools at the time. I didn't know how to clear energies. I didn't know how to manage my energy field. So I remember at that time, my mum had just got into like spirituality, and I rang my mum and I was in absolute tears. You know, I was just in a total place of despair. And I told her what had been going on, and I told her my fears, because it was like, I just bought this house as well with this boyfriend at the time. I'd bought my first house, and I was so scared I couldn't go into my house. And the drinking was going through the roof, because I'd be coming home from work. I would wait outside the house for my boyfriend at the time to get home from work, so that I could go into my house, and I would buy like a half bottle of brandy or something on the way back from work, and I would drink it in my car whilst, like, you know, staring at my house and from the car and looking at the windows in case I saw any like ghosts or any signs that there was activity. Sometimes I would pluck up the courage and I'd go into the house and I would lock myself into the lounge, and you know, I'd drink my brandy and I would just be staring at the door, and I'd just be on red alert until my boyfriend got home. So, you know, it was like just a terrible place to be in emotionally, so frightened. And I rang my mum, and she had these friends who were sort of spiritualists, and they said that they would look in for me and see if there was anything in the house, which they did. And they said there was a little girl that they'd helped to send to the light, and that my mum was to do a ritual with me, a ceremony with me, which basically like involved doing an exorcism within the house. And we used sage, and we had these prayers, and we went around every room with salt, and we did this whole like ritual together. And I tell you what, it really worked. You know, it really worked. I still didn't kind of believe in it, even though I was desperate enough to try it and I was going through the motions, but I still didn't really believe in it at the time. But it actually worked. It cleared the space, and I started to be able to, you know, to get a good night's sleep again. But what I noticed is, I mean, I'm the type of starseed that I move around a lot. You know, I've lived in many, many different homes. And what I noticed, to my absolute horror, is that whenever I was moving houses, every single house that I moved to seemed to be haunted. Right? And then, of course, I realized now it wasn't the house, you know, it was me. So I would have, you know, there's so many stories that I could tell you around this. Perhaps I'll leave some others to another day. But, you know, there started to be this clear pattern. You know, every house there would be like crazy phenomena that was going on. Either I'd be seeing beings, I'd be hearing voices, pictures would be flying off of the wall. There was like poltergeist activity. You know, and it wasn't until I was 36, which is only 4 years ago, I think it was 36, yeah, that I actually fully came out of denial and admitted that these beings do indeed exist. You know, and it was at a point where, quite honestly, my psyche could take it. You know, where I was balanced enough, I'd done enough work on myself at this point. I'd been on this huge healing journey. I'd put down the alcohol. I'd done addiction recovery, many therapists. You know, I'd done loads and loads and loads of work on myself because I was just, you know, I was driven to, because it was the only way that I was going to survive. So it was at this point when I was 36 where I was balanced enough to, like, and strong enough to be able to cope with it, that the veil came off. And it was like, yeah, shit, you know, entities are real, this stuff is real. And like all of those things that I've told myself that don't exist, all of those experiences were real. And I think, I know the universe is always very kind to you, because it was at this time that I was sent various people in my life who were to be supports for me, who were to be teachers, because it was really the most, you know, frightening thing for me to face and for me to walk through, the initiation of like accepting that there were entities after, you know, it causing so much trauma for me in my life before that. So, you know, I had the people, I had the structures, I had the people around me to support me. And of course, it's like the hero's journey, you know, and in your life as well, you know, it's a really great place to look at for clues on what your higher mission is going to be, like the stuff which has challenged you the most in your life, the stuff which brings up the most fear for you. You know, look at those areas, because, you know, now that I've walked through that initiation, I'm on the other side of it. You know, like I said earlier, of course, this is now very much part of my message in the world. Entities are real. And I'm helping people who are going through similar rites of passage as well. So what I'd like to say at this point is, yes, entities are real. Different beings from different dimensions are real. I've had most of them in my bedroom and attached to me at some point in the past. I've had the low vibrations. I now get to have the high vibrations as well, which is very nice. You know, hanging out with the ascended masters and the angelic kingdom is beautiful compared to the demons, the trolls and all of that. But hey, there we go. We're living in a polarity universe, and that's how it comes. So entities are real, but at the same time, I completely have the awareness that they are, like, you are creating. Yeah, you are creating them as well. They are in your psyche. So it is an aspect of the shadow as well, whether it's your shadow or whether it's part of the collective shadow. You know, so like entities are real, but, you know, just in the same way that we are all living this illusion of separation at the moment in this third dimensional, third density, you know, we are, you know, we're all one at the highest level, but there are many, many, many degrees of separation from here to the source. So for people who, and there are people in the spiritual community, and like whatever your opinion on this is your opinion, we all get to have one, but there are people who dismiss entities, or, you know, they say they're not real, or that if they don't believe in it, then they're not going to, you know, none can get attached to them. Well, you know, it's a bit like, it's a little bit like a lion, right? If you were in safari, right, and a lion is running towards you, and you've got that fight or flight kicking in, you know, my strong suggestion is that you protect yourself from that lion, right? And it's a little bit similar with entities. So, you know, if you've got, like me, if you have created a reality for yourself whereby you're an initiation of like dealing with entities, sometimes quite dark ones, you don't just want to ignore the problem because it won't go away. Just like the lion wouldn't go away if it was rushing towards you, about to attack you. There still needs to be empowerment tools, yeah, that you have that can help you in those situations. Entities are, you know, lots of them are beautiful, Christed, high vibrational beings. I remember speaking to my mum when I was coming out of my denial, you know, 4 years ago now, and she said, well, look, I just don't think I believe in aliens. I said, well, fair enough, Mum, but you believe in angels, right? What do you think, like, angels are entities? What do you think, you know, what do you think aliens are, right? And it's just, you know, there are many, many different species, and there are many different beings out there, and there are many different types of source energy that, you know, that species, if you like, incarnated here on the earth plane. You know, there are different species that walk amongst us. You know, it is a very, very serious reality for many of us. You know, many of us are waking up to understand ourselves to be of alien origin, elemental origin, angelic origin, you know, all of these different types of energies. And, you know, there's like a mass awakening that's going on in the planet now. And, you know, we all, you know, we have a choice, right? Are we going to hide that truth, or are we going to empower each other and like help other people to go through what is a very dismantling process? When the day that you realize you're not human, I mean, that's a big day in one's life, you know. Or are we going to come together? Are we going to share our truth? Are we going to empower ourselves and each other, you know? And a bit like the movements, the big movements in the past, because I truly see the multidimensional movement as the next big movement on the planet. You know, we've had the gay movement, we've had, you know, the black movement still continuing, powerful movements that have shifted society's consciousness. As far as I'm concerned, the multidimensional movement is the next big movement. Like, hey guys, wake up. There are beings in other dimensions, and there are beings, like, there are different species that are working here on the earth plane, you know. And like, the positives, like, think about, when you think about what the incredible possibilities could be of society waking up, you know, and like really, you know, understanding that there are these other realities, you know, the amount of like technology, the healings that we can receive, you know, from our galactic neighbors, from these other energies, is absolutely huge. So, you know, it's very much become clear to me that it is part of my mission to speak openly about this in public, and to encourage other people to do the same, you know, in a safe way, but to come out of hiding in this way. The type of beings that you're likely to see, the type of entities that you're likely to see or to attract or to feel or to sense, is really dependent on the type of source energy that you are. So where your soul, like, was originally seeded, if you like, your consciousness. So the humans, for example, much more likely to experience earthbound energies. Yeah, so ghosts, basically. Earthbound energies. And a lot of humans do have these, like, psychic, you know, they do sense these beings around them, but it's much more likely to be ghosts for them. If you are of starseed origin, or if you have that in your energy makeup, then yeah, I mean, you know, it's going to be the star families, you know, the star family races, which are going to be making themselves more known to you. Elementals, then again, you'd be looking at more like the elemental kingdom, which a bit like the alien realms, there can be some weird to our human eyes beings in those realms. And some of them don't even look like beings. So I've had symbols and squares in my bedroom, sometimes, you know, not even like a being, for example. But fairies, gnomes, elves, you know, angels, they all exist. They all exist in the cosmos. I want to share just a couple of little tools, tips that I have discovered along the way that have helped me when I've been woken up many times in the middle of the night when I've sensed that there is energy in my house. So the first thing that I want to share is that, you know, you are sovereign over your energy. You get to say what stays in your space and what doesn't, and what stays in your body and attached to your body and in your house. You know, that is your domain. And actually, there is a universal law which says that if you do not give permission for an energy to stay in that domain, then they are actually infringing on a universal law. Like, they can't stay, right? So the number one thing is just claiming sovereignty over your energy and over your space and over your sleep time as well. You know, setting that really strong intention that you are sovereign over your energy. If you suspect that you have got an attachment, that there is an energy attached to you, then again, by stating your declaration, you know, I claim sovereignty over my body, over my energy field. If any energy is attached to me that does not belong to me, I command you to go now. Like, often that is enough, just stating that declaration. A tip that I have learned, which was shared to me by my mentor, which has helped me many times, if you're somebody who, like me, has got very sensitive to when energy, like, you know, when energy attaches to you. So for me, it feels like it's a physical feeling. The closest that I can describe it is, it almost feels like I've sort of walked into a door when it happens to me. It's like an energy shift as something comes into my energy field. It kind of sort of like almost takes me back a little bit. Not that much, you know, it's more subtle than that, but I can feel a shift. So as soon as you detect that you've got any energy, and this could be energy with consciousness or without consciousness attached to you, then if you immediately say, spirit guide, this energy does not belong to me, remove it from me now, that is normally enough for literally like your spirit guide or like higher frequency energy just to come in and clear it immediately. That has worked for me many, many times. So just that command, spirit guide, this energy does not belong to me, remove it from me now. Again, it's part of you claiming sovereignty over your energy. In my experience, if you have had attachments that have been there for a while, yeah, that was definitely my experience. And when I was asleep at night, I could literally feel them often walking around inside of my energy field and like, you know, like under my skin almost. If they have gone into the body and they're not sitting in the aura or the energy field, then often you do need to have external support and help with somebody removing it. Often it becomes difficult to remove yourself in that case. So seeking a professional, you know, asking for external help when that is the case is very, can be very, very useful. Many of us as well in the spiritual communities are intuitives. We're opening up psychically. We're doing healing work. You know, we're working with higher frequency energies as well. You know, just be careful if you're somebody who is doing that, that you know about how to protect yourself first. Like energy management and protection is really, really important. You don't want to call in the whole cosmos, you know, if you're completely open. Some people are more susceptible to attachments than others. My partner, Ethan, not susceptible at all. Me, like, I'm like a magnet for the cosmos, literally. So You know, it depends on your blueprint. It depends on your energy type. It depends on the type of life, you know, what your soul plan is, your soul path for this lifetime. But protection, knowing some protection, like putting the bubble of protection around you, particularly before you're calling in these higher energies, very important. And being very clear when you are calling in any energies of the ones that you're wanting to invoke. So saying something like, you know, calling in the highest frequency, most compatible energies to you today. That sentence, I use that all the time. You know, the highest frequency, most compatible energies, being very clear about what you're allowing into your energy field. Yeah, so setting those intentions is very, very empowering. Okay, so those are a few tips that I wanted to share with you. I hope this episode of Ascension Talk with Ariella has supported you. I'm going to have a look at the comments. If you do have any questions, I've just got a few minutes now. So if you have any questions or comments, please type them in below. I will also be having a look at your comments later on. Like I say, I'm here every Thursday. Well, sorry, no, the first 3 Thursdays of each month at 4 p.m. UK. It would be great to know as well, what topics do you want me to share on? You know, I really want to make these live streams valuable for you guys as well. So if you have any requests, you can put them in the group, or perhaps you can put them in this thread, and we can start looking at those and, you know, making sure that we build them into some future Ascension Talk with Ariellas. Oh, some beautiful souls here. Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Panilla. Hi, Sandy. Alexis is here. Marion, lovely to see you all. For those of you who are watching this back on replay, perhaps you're watching it on my YouTube channel, we do put the link below as well. You need to be in my Facebook group, my private Facebook group, which is called Avatar Ascension Community, to watch these live streams. And there is a link below that you can click on to opt in, so that you have the opportunity to be here live when I'm doing them and ask me your questions. Hello, Katerina. Hello, Gilles. Oh, some of my absolute favorite people here. It's lovely to hang with you all on this Thursday. We've got a lot of hellos. Sandy had a very real experience of these entities yourself for years and years. Thankfully, not your experience now. Yeah. So a lot of us, the star seeds, the multidimensionals, we have very bright lights. Yeah, we have very bright lights in the cosmos. Our light worker energy is very bright, and we attract the curiosity. And a lot of these beings, they're just curious about us. Most of them do not have a malevolent intent to harm us. You know, it's more of a curiosity. That's also what I've learned, but it can feel to your human, like, yeah, pretty scary at times. Natalia, you've got kind of insects crawling at the back of your neck. Much better since you've shifted your frequency much higher. Yes, those can also be some of the symptoms. There can be like parasites as well sometimes that can attach with us. I'm glad that you've had a breakthrough on that. Yes, Lorraine, you've also had some experiences lately during this high energy in July. Yeah, a lot of people are reporting the same thing, you know, and that's why I felt called to do this live stream today, because I know that a lot of people in the multidimensional community are tapping into these different energies. And personally, for me, when I was first waking up, you know, people would talk about energy, and it's like high vibrational energy or low vibrational energy. And it was very confusing to me, because I was like, well, what are these beings in my bedroom? You know, they're entities. They are entities. Yes, we're all energy. But, you know, people, like, I think, you know, in the spiritual community, the original pioneers, the Wayshowers, who have done such an incredible job so that people like me can publicly speak about this. I mean, seriously, thank you, thank you, thank you to those incredible pioneers in our spiritual community. I think we had to talk about things in the past as being like high energy and low energy because people were waking up, and we didn't want to close them back down by scaring the absolute hell out of them. But, you know, it's liberating, it's empowering. Let's call it what it is. There are entities. You know, there are entities in different realities and different dimensions, you know, that many of us now are seeing and having experiences with. And it really, you know, can be an incredible experience as well. You know, I've had some very, very high vibrational experiences and a lot of like love and, you know, incredible high frequency experiences as well. But yeah, it can be quite the rite of passage. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope this has helped you. It's been lovely to see so many of you here. And well, this is the last one in July. So we've had 3 Ascension Talks with Ariella already. So the next time I'm going to be with you all is on the 1st of August. So put that in your diary, 4 p.m. London, 1st of August, and write in the comments below if there's anything that you'd like me to share on in future episodes. Bring along your questions for me as well. I'm really happy to answer them and to share any guidance that I can that might support you on your ascension journey. Much, much love, and bye for now.